Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial. I'm going to continue my discussion on the servlets. In the last few tutorials, I talked about the definition of the servlet, the usage, and we also talked about the servlet API, some of the important interfaces and classes in that. Now let's talk about the servlet lifecycle. The servlet lifecycle starts at the time when the servlet is created and it ends at the time when the servlet is destroyed. So that means the first method that is being invoked or that is being created is the init method, and this init method is created whenever we have got our servlet instance created on the container. So what is this init method for? It is called only once when servlet is created or user invokes URL related to that servlet, used for one-time initialization, and then a single instance is created and as many threads will be created based on as many requests are made. So that means we have to remember here that whenever the servlet is created, only one instance is created and as many requests are made for that servlet, that many threads will be created. Okay, and all those threads will be sharing the same instance, and this instance init method is going to do one-time initialization, okay, and is being invoked only when the servlet is created. So when the init method is done, we are going to move on to the service method, and in the service method it's basically the entry point for the servlets. The server creates a new thread each time it receives a request, as I said before, and the service method checks which type of HTTP request is invoked. Is it get, post, put, or delete, and accordingly will call the do get or do post or etc. Because the routing takes place in service, you do not need to override service in an HTTP servlet. Instead, override the do get and do post method depending on the expected request type. So that means this service method is very important, and all the requests that are coming from the users, these can be a post method or a get method or whatever method it is the HTTP supports, and then the service method will look into that and will check that if it is a post method, it will redirect to the do post method. So that means we have to override the do post or do get method. Okay, so once that is done, the service method is done and the servlet is about to die. Die means like it's being destroyed. So before being destroyed, the destroy method will be invoked, and this is again will be called only once at the end of the life cycle. So the init method is called at the beginning and destroy method is invoked at the end of the life cycle when all threads within the servlet service method have been exited or a time out period just passed. That means all the service methods are done, okay, and then the destroy method is invoked. And one example of this destroy method is that you have, let's say you have some DB connection opened and you can close the DB connection, or you can close some of the other processings, and at this point the servlet is ready for garbage collection. So now let's look that into some picture. Let's say I have my container here, okay, and then I have my instances service method, okay, and then A is making a HTTP post request and B is making HTTP post request. Okay, so these requests are coming to the container and it is being dispatched to this instance a service method, and then as I said before that only one instance is there, and then for A there will be a thread A, and then there is a thread B. Okay, and this is a post method, so this thread will now invoke So we have again request and response and request and response. So this one is coming to the service method, and because this is a post one, so it will invoke the do post method. Okay, and this one is also a post request, so this one will also invoke the service method. In thread B will invoke the do post method. Okay, so this is how it is working. We have to remember that we have only one instance and as many threads. So that means the servlets are not thread safe. Logically, the servlets are not thread safe, and in order to make sure that we have the right code, okay, it's correct, so we will have to avoid using instance variables. Okay, we have to avoid using the instance variables because these variables are being shared by both this thread and this thread. So a proper usage of the instance variable is required. It's basically good to avoid the instance variables in the servlets because these by default are not thread safe. Okay, so that's all for today's tutorial. Thank you.